Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Assemblyman Jeffrey Dinowitz. I'm chairman of the Assembly Codes Committee. Welcome to the first meeting of the Joint Budget Conference Subcommittee on Public Protection as we begin our recommendations to discuss the budget for the 2021-22 budget. And I am pleased to be joined here today by an excellent panel of members of the Senate and the Assembly who are all dedicated to promoting smart and fair criminal justice policies in New York State. And I'm particularly pleased to be working with my co-chair, Senator Jamal Bailey. The Public Protection Conference Subcommittee has always worked well together in a constructive manner to enact laws that have served to make New York the safest large state in the nation, and this year will be no different. Let me just introduce the members on the Assembly side. They are Charles Levine, who's the chair of the Judiciary Committee, Ken Zebrowski, chair of the Governmental Operations Committee, David Weprin, chair of the Corrections Committee, and Assembly members Clyde Vanell and Jennifer Rashkumar, who will serve as alternate members of the subcommittee. We also have Assembly member Phil Palmisano, representing the Assembly minority, and Assemblymember Marjorie Burns, who will serve as an alternate member for the minority. And the Assembly has designated Nate Jenkins as the recording secretary. Unquestionably, both the Assembly and the Senate budget proposals share a commitment to increasing access to justice and enhancing the safety of all New Yorkers. And I believe the job of this subcommittee is to ensure that vital criminal and civil justice programs continue to operate, such as alternatives to incarceration services that have helped to lower our prison population while keeping crime rates low, and civil and criminal legal services, which provide essential legal assistance to low-income New Yorkers. And working with the Senate and my colleagues in the Assembly, I look forward to advancing our respective budget proposals. And we approach these negotiations with a very high level of optimism, even during these difficult and extraordinary times, and that we will be able to work productively towards an on-time budget. And please be assured that the committee members and staff will be working hard throughout this process to accomplish a reasonable and fair and on-time budget. And I want to turn it over to our co-chair for his introductory remarks, State Senator Jamal Bailey.
Thank you, Co-Chair Dinowitz. So good afternoon, everybody. I am New York State Senator Jamal T. Bailey, representing the 36th Senatorial District in the Bronx and the city of Mount Vernon. I serve as the chair of the Senate Standing Committee on Codes, and I am proud to be the co-chair of the Public Protection Budget Committee. As Assemblymember Dinowitz mentioned, this is a very difficult year in many aspects, and fiscally it's one of them, and I think that we have the right group of members on this conference committee to be able to push us forward. The Senate shares the commitment that the Assembly has, without a doubt, undoubtedly, that we want to continuously enact fair, just proceedings in our justice system, and also making sure that New Yorkers are able to be taken care of in such fiscally concerning times. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce the members of the Senate of this conference committee. The chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Senator Brad Hoylman. The chair of the Senate Standing Committee on Crime Victims, Crime and Correction, Senator Julia Salazar. The Senate Standing Committee Chair on Consumer Protection, Senator Kevin Thomas. The Senate Standing Committee Chair on Ethics, Senator Alessandro Biaggi. And the ranking members of Finance, Senator Thomas O'Mara, and the ranking member of the Codes Committee, Senator Anthony Palumbo. Again, we may have different political affiliations in different districts, but what we certainly share is a desire to move New York State forward. Again, these are incredibly challenging times that we all face throughout all 63 districts in the Senate and all 150 Assembly districts. But rest assured, New Yorkers, whether we agree or disagree, what we do agree on is that we put you first, that we will continue to put you first in this committee. I want to introduce the recording secretary for the Senate, Zach St. Hubert. And I want to briefly state the guidelines that we're going to be going over, in this committee. The co-chair shall determine all matters of parliamentary procedure unless otherwise specified by these rules. Any dispute with regard to procedure that cannot be resolved by the co-chairs shall be referred back to the General Conference Committee and shall be resolved by the co-chairs of the General Conference Committee. Co-chairs shall each designate a staff person to serve as secretary, which you've heard the Assembly and Senate has done already, for the purpose of taking minutes. An alternate may participate in a subcommittee meeting, but shall not vote upon any deliberations of such subcommittee unless he or she has been designated to fill an excused vacancy in such subcommittee. Such designation shall be made by the co-chair of the General Conference Committee representing the House in which the excused vacancy exists. If such vacancy is in a minority seat on the subcommittee, the designation shall be made upon the recommendation of the respective House's minority representative of the General Conference Committee. Such designation shall be made as soon as practicable by the appropriate co-chair by providing notice to the other co-chair of the General Conference Committee. An excused absence in the General Conference Committee may be filled by a temporary designation of a member by the co-chair of the General Conference Committee representing the House in which the excused vacancy exists. No subcommittee members or alternate members shall be permitted to participate via proxy. Subcommittees shall restrict their deliberations to the respective subject areas as determined by the General Conference Committee. Any issues which are determined to be non-germane by the co-chair shall be referred back to the General Conference Committee. Each member shall be permitted a reasonable period of time as determined by the co-chairs to determine any matter germane to the subject area of the subcommittee, and no report shall be filed except upon the affirmative vote of a majority of the members of each House's delegation on the subcommittee. So those are the guidelines for the conference committee's process. If I may take a co-chairperson's privilege, I just want to recognize the amazing Senate staff that we have present. They get us through the budget. You've heard from the Secretary, Zach St. Hubert, but we also have Donovan Borrington, Nick Rangel, Jess Prasad, Tamara Frazier, Dorothy Powell, and is that all, please? Ken Kurt, Elizabeth Nowicki. And, I think that is all that we have from the Senate side, but I want to make sure we recognize the amazing women and men of the Senate staff that really get us through the day. Co-Chair Dinowitz.
Thank you very much. There are a number of agencies that we're going to be discussing at the Public Protection Joint Conference Committee. Some of them include the Office of Indigent Legal Services, the Office of Victim Services, the Commission on Judicial Conduct, Department of Corrections and Community Supervision, the Department of Law, Division of Criminal Justice Services, the Judiciary, Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services, the Office of Prevention of Domestic Violence, and more that you're going to mention, I see.
Yes, so the Senate and the Assembly both accept the executive recommendation on the following agencies: the Interest on Lawyers Account, Division of Military and Naval Affairs, the Commission on Judicial Nomination, the Division of State Police, the Judicial Screening Committee, and the State Commission of Correction.
Okay, now in the budget, there are Article 7 bills that accompany the budget. And while there is no agreement on additional Article 7 legislation at this time, I wish to make a note of agreement in two areas that was reached in advance of today's conference. First, in the Public Protection General Government Budget Bill, Part G, there's a proposal to repeal Section 240.37 of the Penal Law, loitering for purposes of prostitution. This law, sometimes referred to as the Walking While Trans law, was repealed in legislation that the legislature enacted last month. And second, in Part MM of the Transportation, Economic Development, and Environmental Conservation Budget Bill, there's a proposal to extend the current ban on many commercial evictions due to the pandemic through May 1st, 2021. And very similar language was agreed to between both houses and is before the governor right now for signature.
So thank you, co-chair. So, obviously this is going to be a long 15 or so days until April 1st. And there are still some issues that we need to iron out. And the major issues that we need to be addressed at this conference subcommittee include matters revolving around the judiciary, anti-gun violence programs, civil legal services and domestic violence legal services, reentry programs, the Edward Byrne Justice Assistance Grant Program, alternative to incarceration funding, and prison closures. These issues are matters that we will be working feverishly around the clock, and we will be working with our amazing staff, as previously mentioned, to make sure that we can resolve these issues and hopefully get an on-time budget so that New Yorkers can continue to take pride in their government.
Okay, and I look forward to working together with you and with all of our colleagues. I would like to thank the Assembly staff, uh, people that are here. And if I had a list, I would actually read their names, but I know the hard work that everybody is doing, and we appreciate it. And in the next couple of weeks, we got a lot of work to do, but we're going to get it done. So thank you, Co-Chair Senator Jamal Bailey, and I thank all of our members. And I look forward to our next meeting.
Thank you, Co-Chair Dinowitz. I'd like to thank Andre Stewart Evans for allowing me to be the co-chair and all my colleagues. Looking forward to the work.